Everyone, it's Darren at SEQFC here, and it's time to talk Gold Coast football, something that we never get to do. But hopefully we'll start picking that up a lot more as this season progresses. So I've got Mark M with me from Football Gold Coast. Good afternoon, Mark.
Good afternoon, Darren. Thanks for giving me a call out. I'm happy to be here and have a chat with you today.
Sensational. All right. Now, before we get stuck into this weekend's fixtures, just bring us up to date with what's happened in the off-season with all the clubs.
Obviously, busy off-season here on the Gold Coast. Obviously, we had two promotions from our Coast League 1 last year, Robina and Southport coming up. Madrabar and Tweed have gone back to Coast League 1. It was actually Madrabar elected not to play in the Premier League this year, declined the invitation, which resulted in an automatic promotion for Southport as well. Those two teams have come up. Really strengthen our comp moving forward for this year. Again, Robina's back in the Premier League after 19 years away. So Nathan Mulhern, who took them to victory last year in the Premiership, has stayed on as coach at Robina this year. A completely different squad to what he had last year, but they've come in, strengthened the competition. All of our other teams as well. Obviously, that big move coming from Broadbeach over to Nerang. Lee Vernon and a lot of his whole squad moved over to the Eagles. Broadbeach being one of the most successful teams that we've had in the Gold Coast ever, but especially in the last decade. Countless grand finals, premierships, cup finals. They're seasoned veterans. They know how to get the job done. And coming into that mix with Nerang and their youth, the products that Gary Scott and all the team at Nerang have produced over the years, that mix has always been interesting, and it has continued to be interesting in the early parts of the season. And that's probably the biggest change that happened in our Premier League. Again, Dave Benigno, vacating that role at Nerang. A lot of his players now either moving back to surface where they initially came from, the likes of Fade Arroyo. He's gone back a good keeper there to surface with Alex Morrison and his side. So there's always chopping and changing on the Gold Coast like a merry-go-round. Players like to get on and jump off at a stop. A lot of it depends on the coaches. A lot of it depends on the year and where they feel comfortable. But look, again, that off-season acquisition that Coomera made, probably the biggest acquisition for a Gold Coast Premier League team ever, and getting Henrique to come down and play. He already gives them that level, just that extra bit of class to their side, which is already stacked with talent. They have a great talent at Coomera, and now with Henrique, that just put them that little bit over the top. That bit of experience in how to manage big game situations, very crucial for them in Coomera. Looking at Palm Beach, one of our, biggest development project we've had in our Premier League and have seen over the past 3 years with Brett Budley. He's taken a group of young boys, and finally now I think everyone on the Gold Coast has realised that they are now growing into young men and young and fantastic footballers. So it's exciting times. It's exciting times on the Gold Coast. We have a fantastic league. It's probably the most competitive league that we've had since we went back to that 8 teams in 2013. A lot of people said, is 8 the number? Look, this year, if you looked at the 8 teams, you'd say 8 is the perfect number just because of the intensity of the games and the strength of teams. So we're excited. Again, we're 4 rounds in. It's been, every game's intense. Every game's like a cup final. Coaches aren't too happy about it, I'm sure, because injuries, suspensions, obviously the massive break in between hasn't helped. It's a sprint. It's a quick 14-game season. So we're almost 1/3 of the way through the year heading into this weekend. But look, all in all, again, busy off-season for our clubs.
Sure. How's Henrique going? Have you seen him play yet?
I've seen him play. I saw him play the game against Burleigh, which was the first game back that we came back from COVID. I saw him play in the first game of the season as well in Nerang. So the difference between the first game of the layoff and then the next game, look, dead ball situations, in all honesty, it's almost like a goal every single time. His free kicks around the box. He scored 6 goals this year. He's equal top scorer in the league so far. I believe 5 of them have been from dead ball situations, 2 penalties and 3 free kicks. In our level, especially in amateur Gold Coast Premier League and obviously in Brisbane as well, I'm sure that scoring free kicks isn't a regular for a lot of players, but for him it is, and it's been fantastic. Speaking with their coach, I've got a good relationship with all our coaches, but with Steve McDonald as well. He said he's fit in fantastic with the boys. The boys were probably a bit, you could see in the early stages, they were not scared to play with him, but sort of hesitant as to not wanting to make a mistake or anything like that. Now you can see that full transition to their squad, that he's well adjusted there. I think it's probably taken him a couple of games from what I've seen anyway to realise that he has dropped that level, that it isn't that professional level, isn't that standard every week in, week out. You're going to have fields that have bobbles. You're going to have fields that the ball slows up. You're going to have, decisions might not be always perfect. There's no VAR to go to. There's no whole lot of different things. You will be a targeted man. I think he's realised that now. But again, he's adapted fantastically to our league. And it's a fantastic coup for us as Football Gold Coast to have someone of his quality and his calibre come into our league, which is already a strong league of local players. But hopefully it's what happens next down the line that we can see the real benefits. Obviously, he's towards the latter end of his career. No disrespect to him there. But it's more, can the young players, not only playing with him, but playing against him, see what he does, see what it's like to be a professional. And not that they might get to that level, but just to have that, this is what a professional means, and just apply certain practices and procedures that he does on a daily training basis, game basis, to their local amateur games. Again, people always say it's that hard line between, is it local amateur football? It's not a professional league. We all understand that. But for me, we all devote our time, our energy into training, into games, spending our weekends there. So let's make it the best we possibly can be. And that's where I believe he will add that little extra edge and extra benefit to our league as a whole, not just for Coomera. So, yeah, it's been a great addition to our league.
Sure. And going to the league now, I've been checking the ladder every week, and there seems to be a new leader.
There is. It is very tight. It chops and changes. Look, we just finished off round 2 games, 2 nights ago there with the Nerang Surfers clash. It was I would happily be confident in saying it might be the longest round of football in ever. It's 150 days from the first match of the round to the last match of the round. But again, that had some disparity in the table, and the results that have come in so far, unexpected or not, everyone's still trying to feel their way around this league in the whole landscape. Even though you think that you might be versing a team that's on the bottom end of the scale, but the level's not that. There's not a massive difference between our top and our bottom teams. And that's what I found even just by watching the games and speaking to the coaches. As I said earlier, it's week in, week out. They cannot go into games saying, look, even if we don't play our best today, we might still get 3 points. That's not going to be the case this year. You will get punished. You will get found out. And it won't even take 90 minutes of not playing your right game. 45 minutes is enough, plenty of time, 45, but even less than that. A 5-minute lapse in concentration can cost teams quite significantly this year. And you will see that chop and change. Using Burley as an example, Philo's had a tough time so far this year. He's lost 5 of his starting 11 players from last year's double-winning team. It's difficult with this current season and all, like I said, to get that momentum going, because if you have one bad result and you need to get that momentum back rolling for another 1-2 games to get back on track, well, there's 3 games already gone in a 14-game season. So you will see that. Do I think it will continue to chop and change? Yes, but not as much maybe at that top end scale. I think a lot of positions from maybe 3rd to 6th might chop and change. I do think as time progresses and teams get into their routine a bit more now, we will start seeing maybe 1 or 2 teams pull away. Who that might be, again, it's anyone's real league title there. I think a shortened season, not obviously for obvious reason that there's less games, but it opens up a whole different aspect for our clubs and our teams. We have some clubs that will be fantastic in the first round and a half of a normal season, 10, 12 games, and then drop off towards the back end of the year. That won't be the case this year. If you have 12 good rounds, you'll probably win it. So, that whole tortoise versus hare, quick out of the blocks might be the way to go this year. So, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. It'll just be ever-changing, and that's the fun of it, I guess.
Looking at this weekend's fixtures, Surfers Paradise against Southport, that's one that sticks out to me. Is that how you see it as well?
Look, out of the fixtures this week, again, like I said, every fixture is big important. I'd say the Burley Palm Beach game. For me, the 5:30 kickoff on this Saturday might be the big one in regards to top 4 places, a title aspiration, so on and so forth. If you look at the table, again, Burley having that slower start, if you want to call it like a word for their standards. Palm Beach is sitting there ahead of them by 3 points. Now, another 3 points to Palm Beach. He has 6 points ahead of Burleigh. 5 games in, it'll be not hard for Burleigh to catch up. Anything's possible, but the momentum, again, like I spoke about, Burleigh get those 3 points, could be a completely different story, and we'll be in for a proper race. Against Surfers Southport, a good fixture. Rob Semple's done a fantastic job since coming up from Coast League 1. A lot of people wrote Southport off coming into this league. In our launch night, they were completely written off by a lot of teams and a lot of coaches, mainly because of the players they had coming in. They were kept pretty much the same squad for Coast League 1. And it's not easy for a team to do that and come in and take points at the top. We saw the previous teams that have come up from Coast League struggle for a number of years, but the way they've started and the games that they've played, they're going to cause problems. They're going to take points. So, again, Surfers have to be careful there of that one, that, upon their standards, they'll be pretty confident going into that game at home with a deep squad, a couple of new signings for them as well during the week. Daniel Drags from Gold Coast Knights coming into their team, fantastic addition. They obviously signed Andrew Barisic, another Gold Coast Knights player, last week. So they've got the players there, and I'm sure Alex Morrison will say 3 points or bust for him this weekend. But Rob Semple will go into the game thinking pretty much the same thing, as he should.
And having a look at that Coast League, we've got a top of the table clash this weekend: Musgrave and Wingscliff.
Both those two teams have made it abundantly clear that they want to get promoted this year. We're obviously going to 10 teams next year, so top 2 go up and the third place plays off with last. Now, those two teams have made it very, very, very clear in their intentions that they aim for that top 2 spots, but they want to get that first spot. They want to be the ones to say we were first past the post and in. It'll be tough. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be massive again with their season and the way it's structured. Again, Coast League is one of those where you think that it should be relatively straightforward, but it won't be. Football never is straightforward, especially the lower you get, the less straightforward it is. When I say lower, the lower leagues you get, anything can happen on that day. Musgrave and both those two teams have been very, very unlucky in the last 6-7 years of playing Coast League. I know 6-7 years sounds like a long time to be unlucky, but with the 8-team comp that we've had, it's meant that teams that were supposed to be in the Premier League were not there at some points. So they were always in Coast League 1 getting promoted the years that Musgrave and Kingscliff were in there as well. It's a perfect example. Surfers have been in there. They've also won the Premier League Grand Final at that time. Gold Coast Knights, people forget, they were in Division 1 in 2016. So these are the teams that they've had to face. Burleigh, they've had to face a Premier League double winner last year in Division 1. Magic, they actually played them in Division 1, got promoted, won the double. Obviously, they're not in our competition anymore. So the teams that they faced have been difficult. That I wouldn't regard them as Coast League 1 clubs. I would always see the teams that they faced as Premier League clubs. So now is the real indication for us, can these teams push on and really move forward and get the job done and come into our Premier League for next year. So it'll be an exciting game, I'm sure.
Let's switch our focus now to the women's competitions. Of course, the Premier women's teams on the Gold Coast are playing in the Football Brisbane competition.
Yeah.
I see Coomera are keeping their form up from last year. How do you think they're going to go?
Look, Trent's obviously the old Southport coach has gone over there. One of our competition administrators, Kat Pryor, has just signed for Coomera as well. She sits across the office from me. So from all indications, I think they have a fantastic squad. Trent's a very committed female coach. He loves the game. He puts a lot of time and effort into that team and into their performance. So I think his aspirations will be to win the league. He won't go in there with anything other than we need to be on top. Can he get there? I'm sure he can. Obviously, that slip-up they had against Ipswich last week, I don't know the strength of the Brisbane teams, but just watching the highlights, speaking to Kat, in our office here, they had a lot of chances, didn't execute. But that's football at the end of the day. I'm sure they'll be disappointed and be raring to go this week when they come out against the Lakes. Looking at their draw, it seems like they play a lot of the Gold Coast teams in the first preliminary round at home, which is, you could say it's good or bad, but that means a lot of long trips to North Brisbane for them in the away games. So, look, it will all come down to, I think, in the women's competition again, form, consistency. Who is ready from the restart, from the go right now? I know we've had a couple of weeks of football already, but now you'll sort of see the fitness of players get really back to not where it was, but back to a good enough standard to play at that high level. And it'll be crucial to see how they all go. Rabina and Broadbeach, they've been successful women's setups here on the Gold Coast for many a year. And now, I see a lot of young players coming through their systems and all the rest of it. It's a good pathway for us to have, with our Brisbane Women's Premier League teams. And I'm sure they'll represent the Gold Coast fantastically in that competition for the duration of the year.
Well, it's going to be a fantastic weekend in store. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we'll have a chat to you every week, and you can keep spruiking the Gold Coast leagues.
Happy to fly our flag high. Perfect. No, thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. And again, great job for everything you've been doing for South East Queensland football. And hopefully we get to speak to you soon.
Absolute pleasure. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.